Saladin, the immortal Muslim war god, the terror of the Crusades, the great man who changed human history. No words are enough to describe his greatness. However, all the feats of this great king were only accomplished after the passing of an outstanding genius, who was seen as Saladin's lifelong obsession, the Leper King of Jerusalem, Baldwin IV. Baldwin IV's great victory over Saladin's Muslim army at Montgisard was his life's first and greatest battle. Despite suffering from a terrible illness and dying at only 24, Baldwin IV was still considered one of the legendary figures of Christendom as well as the whole world. So how did a leper king become the defender of the faith, the savior of Christendom, and achieve such earth-shattering feats? Let's find out. The name Leper King originated from Baldwin IV's terrible illness. Leprosy, also known as Hansen's disease, had ravaged his nervous system and limbs, but the illness did not make him any less great. Born and raised in the royal family of the Holy Land of Jerusalem, from a young age, Baldwin showed the qualities of a wise ruler. With extraordinary talents, Baldwin was appointed as the future king of Jerusalem. All the people of the religious land were waiting for the emergence of a wise ruler. However, everything changed when Baldwin's teacher, William of Tyre, discovered that the future king felt no pain. The boy did not cry, even when other children pinched his arm. At first, the teacher thought it was just a very tough act of a future monarch and even praised this behavior. But after a while, he realized that the crown prince had completely lost sensation in his arm, a typical symptom of leprosy, the deadly disease at that time. When the human intellect was still trapped in myths and ghosts, the disease that Baldwin suffered from was no less than a punishment from God. Even the Muslims insisted that this disease was the punishment of the Holy Allah upon the head of the infidel who dared to seize their Jerusalem. Even the Christian believers thought they were being punished by God. And when the leader of Jerusalem contracted this disease, they knew the heavenly kingdom was about to collapse. The discovery of the serious illness in the young prince caused profound conflicts within the Jerusalem court. Still, 4 years later, Baldwin ascended to the throne of Jerusalem after his father, King Amalric, was assassinated. The ancient city of Jerusalem welcomed the emergence of a wise ruler, crowned king at only 13. When his peers were still carefree playing, Baldwin IV had become a monarch full of authority. Of course, no one wanted a crippled child to rule the kingdom. In 1174, soon after Baldwin was crowned, a strong wave of opposition erupted because no one accepted a disabled person ruling the Holy Land. A relative of the king named Miles saw a rare opportunity to become regent. Jerusalem fell into the hands of a stranger, losing stability. However, despite the torment of the terrible disease, Baldwin secretly planned to regain power. Just 2 years after Miles took power, Baldwin quickly overthrew him and regained actual power thanks to the help of his loyal subject Raymond, who later led the disastrous Second Crusade against Saladin. In 1176, Baldwin completely conquered Jerusalem. The young king's first step was to sign a truce with Saladin to stabilize the situation. However, he realized that with Saladin's ambition to rule, only force could resolve all issues. Reality proved Baldwin's judgment completely correct. Disregarding the peace treaty, Saladin still raided the territory of Jerusalem. That destabilized the young king's kingdom. Although his advisors dissuaded him because Saladin's army was almost undefeated at the time, Baldwin decided to break the treaty, ready to confront Saladin directly. On the other side of the front line, Baldwin had long been a thorn in Saladin's eye. And when the opportunity arose, Saladin quickly seized it. An earth-shattering battle was about to erupt. Saladin and his Muslim warriors immediately attacked Baldwin's Aleppo. But with sharp intelligence, Baldwin pushed Saladin's army into difficulties by luring the enemy into Aleppo, then circling around to the rear to attack Saladin's capital Damascus in Syria. Surprised by the threat to his capital, Saladin had to retreat. This was the first clash of intellect between the two brilliant kings. Although there was no direct confrontation, Baldwin's tactics proved he was no less capable on the battlefield. After defeating Saladin's siege of Damascus, Baldwin continued to defeat Saladin's nephew's armies in Lebanon and Syria. However, that was not all the young king of Jerusalem wanted. His ambition was to completely defeat Saladin and bring peace to Christendom. Baldwin realized that Saladin's real power did not lie in Syria, but in Egypt. Grasping the enemy's weakness, he planned to invade Egypt in alliance with the Byzantine Empire. A perfect plan was outlined to directly attack Saladin's centers of power in Cairo and Giza. The Byzantine navy would support Jerusalem's army, making up for their weakness at sea. The plan to attack Egypt seemed to go smoothly until suddenly William of Montferrat, the key figure of the campaign, died. Then King Baldwin himself also fell seriously ill, forcing the military campaign to stop. Concerned about developments, the Byzantine Empire decided to withdraw support for Jerusalem. With Jerusalem alone against the threat and the king seriously ill, forces disintegrating, Saladin seized the opportunity that Allah had given him, mobilizing 26,000 elite troops, along with the Egyptian imperial guards, attacking Christian territories. The fierce attacks on Ramla, Lydda, and Arsuf caused panic in Jerusalem, and faith was shaken. This urged Baldwin to decide to directly confront Saladin in a decisive do-or-die battle for religion and race. Carrying a terrible illness that had already ravaged half his body, Baldwin summoned 600 Knights Templar along with several thousand local soldiers to confront Saladin's forces. His health condition was so poor that people thought he was about to die. 600 knights along with the ragtag army facing 26,000 Saladin's seasoned warriors was clearly not an even match. To have a chance at victory, Baldwin decided on a surprise ambush attack. Although deaf and paralyzed in his right arm, Baldwin still rode into battle, wielding his sword in his left hand, radiating the spirit of a wise ruler. That daring move ignited the flame of victorious faith among the people and soldiers of Jerusalem. After repeated fierce attacks by the Christian army, Saladin's army fell into chaos. Caught by surprise when exhausted, they scrambled to reform ranks to respond. Meanwhile, the ranks of the Christian army were completely silent away in the distance. King Baldwin ordered the sacred relic of the Holy Cross to be carried before the army's ranks. With a body wrecked by leprosy even in his youth, he dismounted, escorted by guards, and knelt before the Holy Cross. Baldwin prayed for God to grant victory, then stood up, his trembling legs still steady as he encouraged the soldiers. The Holy Cross glowed like the sun. It was truly a miraculous victory, reliving the spirit of the First Crusade. Driven by faith, Baldwin led the charge, leading the army rushing down the sandy hills. The Jerusalem army poured down like a storm, piercing through Saladin's half-finished defensive line. Saladin suffered heavy losses and had to flee on camelback. His crack troops were decimated, his imperial guards nearly wiped out. Even Saladin's own nephew perished in the fierce battle. Baldwin achieved total victory, completely smashing Saladin's invading forces. He ordered the army to chase the enemy until nightfall before withdrawing to rest at Ascalon. 10 days later, heavy, prolonged rain forced Saladin's defeated army, now reduced to just over 2,000 men, to suffer from hunger, thirst, and looting just to return to Egypt. This was the first defeat in Saladin's career of conquest. The battle was a brilliant victory for Baldwin and the Jerusalem army. A strange battle under the command of a sick king that made the mighty enemy terrified. Saladin's ambitions were blocked by an enigmatic rival that transcended lifetimes. King Baldwin the Leper was the only one who brought Saladin to taste bitter defeat. When he was so blind and paralyzed that he could not even attend his sister's wedding, Baldwin appointed Guy de Lusignan as regent. However, he was too weak, could not unite all social classes, and did not dare confront Saladin. Recognizing Jerusalem's situation, Saladin was determined to conquer, but upon hearing that despite illness, Baldwin was still going into battle, he immediately retreated. Only after Baldwin's death in 1185 did Saladin's dream of conquering the Holy Land become reality. The death of the talented king meant the last wall of Christendom had collapsed. Just 2 years later, under the incompetent leadership of his successor, Jerusalem fell to the onslaught of Muslim warriors. Later historians believed if Baldwin had lived, the kingdom of Jerusalem would have lasted much longer instead of collapsing so quickly. World history would have changed greatly if Baldwin had lost that day. Despite being haunted by illness his whole life, the life of Leper King Baldwin remains an eternal legend. What do you guys think about this strange king? Please leave your opinions and let's discuss.